admit 1 or 2 more students that's entering. Okay, again, as I said earlier, I'll be assisting you with your CV prep this morning. I am recording this session. Just be aware of the fact that the session is being recorded. I see that it is actually just I'm hoping that it is recording. See, oh great, it's recording. Okay, so any one of you guys that would like to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your degree as well as your career choice and your career planning. Anyone that would like to introduce themselves? I will put the recording on YouTube most likely, but I'm doing more than one recording, so I will decide which recording I'll be adding. All right, but thanks for the question. Anyone that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, I see someone is typing. Okay. All right. If no one is going to introduce themselves, I'm just going to start with the session. Okay. All right. So I feel that there's a few tips that I really have to mention that I feel is extremely important to consider when you're drafting your CV. Okay, so the number one tip that I would like to give is that when you are submitting your CV for a specific position, it's extremely important to adjust your CV according to the job specs. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because a lot of people still do not do this, and it's extremely important to do so. I'm going to give you guys an example. So let's say hypothetically that we are now applying for a secretarial position, right? And we hypothetically have some sort of secretarial background in terms of the degree. For the position, they're asking that they're looking for somebody that's got, let's say, hypothetically, 6 months relevant work experience. They're asking for somebody that's got can work well in a team, that's got good interpersonal skills. They're looking for somebody that's got a typing speed of 45 words per minute. They're looking for somebody that can take minutes in a meeting and someone that can pay attention to detail. That's the criteria for the position. So what's important when you're applying is to go and reflect this information on your CV and or cover letter. And if you're applying online, to reflect it on your application online. And it's not about copy and pasting per se the information. It's more about linking the qualities and skills that you've got with the criteria for the position, if that makes sense. So basically, I think there's this assumption going around that we think that the company needs to know that we do have leadership skills, or we can organize, or we do pay attention to detail. And that's definitely not the case. They're not going to assume. It needs to be basically in black and white on your CV or on your application and or cover letter. If it's not there, they will be discarding and throwing out your application. So that's the number one tip. I hope it makes sense. It's really, really important. I feel there's this assumption where people usually just have one template and they just send it to everybody and hope for the best. And that's definitely not the best approach to have. Okay, I hope it's clear. I'm going to move on to the second tip. And the second tip again is extremely important. And I feel a lot of people, and I've seen that a lot of people, for whatever reason, do not take note of this tip. And this is to follow the application instructions. I'm going to give you guys another example. So earlier in this year, we had 2 positions in the office that I advertised. And my application instructions in this specific situation involved please send me a 2-page CV with 2 references to marley.res@up.ac.za. And please also attach a 1-page cover letter and quote employability assistant in the subject line. And I promise you guys that 95% of the people that applied, the applicants, did not follow these instructions. And it's actually pretty shocking in a way, because those are simple instructions to follow. And basically what this is translating to the recruiter is that either you cannot, the person cannot follow simple instructions, or do not pay attention to detail, or the position is just not important enough for them to actually attend to those specific instructions. So please, guys, for example, with the example that I gave, students would, for example, or applicants would, for example, forget to attach, to add any, let me just admit entry for this person, just bear with me. So what people would do is they would either not provide me with any references, or they will provide me with a 4-page CV, or they would forget to attach the cover letter, or the cover letter will be addressed to the wrong person. Now again, guys, unfortunately, this would be reason enough for the recruiter to throw out the whole application. And just those 2 tips, following the instructions in terms of the application instructions, as well as adjusting your CV according to the job spec, that is the criteria provided by the company, would already make a massive difference in an application in terms of it being either thrown out or not thrown out. So please, just those tips to consider is already really putting yourself in a more desirable, attractive situation. All right. So then the 3rd tip that I would like to give, and I think it's also very important to be aware of, is that a lot of the companies, not all of them, but a lot of the companies use some sort of tracking system when you're submitting your CV and or cover letter. So the purpose of the tracking system, whether you are submitting it via email or whether you're submitting it online on the website or whatever the case may be, the purpose of the tracking system is to pick up on certain keywords to see whether you've got the right qualities and skills that they are looking for. So the tracking system might be searching for keywords and phrases such as leadership or interpersonal skills. So my advice again is to stress that you need to adjust your CV according to the position. And I'm not talking about copy and pasting. I'm talking about using 1 or 2 keywords that they've used, but that those keywords that you possess. So it would be, you've got leadership skills and they want leadership skills. So you're going to use the word leadership and you're going to use the phrase interpersonal skills. And it is therefore a very good reason to use those keywords. And if a tracking system is being used, then it can possibly pick up on those keywords and on that basis either put you through to the next round or not. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And please bear that in mind in terms of your applications. And then the last step, but I will be touching on it throughout the presentation, would be to remember that your CV is a professional document, just like when you're submitting, for example, an assignment. And also to consider, think of yourself and start thinking of yourself as a brand, and ask yourself what sort of brand would you like to put out there. Now, your CV would be one little element of that brand. I will just have a look at your question now, just bear in mind. And so you need to start thinking of yourself as a brand, and your CV needs to be a professional document. And so when you're drafting your CV, you need to make sure that it is a professional, consistent, aligned, no spelling errors. But we will be going through the template, and I will be touching on this a few times. So just hold on a second. I'm just going to have a look at that question. Okay, Lynn. Hi, Marley. I have a question. With regards to adjusting your CV, tailoring this for each application, would you advise tailoring your CV letter instead and having a strong CV? Cover letter. Okay. So adjusting your CV and tailoring this for each application, would you advise tailoring your cover letter instead and having a strong CV? Okay. So you're asking whether you need to also adjust your cover letter. Okay, you need to adjust your cover letter as well as your CV for each and every application. And I do understand that that it might be a lot of work, but for those serious positions that you really want, my advice would be to always go and adjust your CV and or cover letter, and if you're applying online, to also go and adjust it, because again, if they receive, for example, your cover letter and it's a general cover letter and they cannot see that you've got the qualities and skills that they are specifically looking for, and or that you haven't made the effort to show them that you've got the qualities and skills that they are looking for, then unfortunately that's probably grounds for them to throw out your application, if that makes sense. Any questions so far on the 4 tips that I've just mentioned? Let me just quickly admit. Any questions so far on the tips that I've mentioned?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, this is Peters from Cameroon.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, my question is on the third tips, you using the keywords. For example, you gave an example of leadership and interpersonal relationship. So
Yes.
in which phrases, in which places do you use these keywords?
Okay. All right. I will be definitely talking about those keywords as we go through your CV, but just as a general answer, we will be talking about, can I ask everybody for the moment just to mute their microphones for the moment until you've got a question. So basically, you will see that we've got a professional profile. It's a short sentence on your CV, and I'll definitely would recommend that you touch on some of those keywords there on your CV, and then especially as well under, if let's say you're under the work experience section, you can definitely maybe use some of those keywords there, as well as under your skills section. That would be on your CV, but if we're talking about your cover letter, you can definitely be using some of those keywords there as well. And let's say you're applying online, you might also be using some of those keywords there as well. But I will be referring to those keywords as we go through the presentation as well, Peter. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any other questions based on the 4 tips that I just mentioned? No questions. Okay, I'm just going to make sure there hasn't been any other questions. Okay, thank you, Lynn, for that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the template. And then we will also, throughout the going through the template, I will be giving you guys opportunities to ask questions. Okay, so just bear with me for a second. Okay. And just a reminder that this session is being recorded. Okay, just gonna close that. And I hope everybody can see this template that I've got here in front of me. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly scan through the template that you have an idea of what we've done. And I would like to also mention something about that. Now, as you guys know, there are many, many templates out there. And it's not to say that those templates are necessarily wrong, but we've got some reasons why we are using this template. And you will see this template is pretty, it's not a busy CV. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of different bullets and funny bullets and pictures. There's not borders and tables and things like that. But you will see that it's professionally written. You will see that it's consistent. Headings are consistent. Subheadings are consistent. Alignment is professionally done and consistent. Spacing is professionally and consistent. So we will talk a little bit about that more. But the other reason why we do keep the CV this simple, for the lack of a better word, is that if you're submitting it and a background system might be used, that if it's overcomplicated, the CV might completely scramble and it's just not going to be an effective CV if a background system is being used. Okay, so that's one reason we are offering and providing the CV as well. But bear in mind, not all companies are using these systems, but a lot are. So it's just important to be well aware of it. Okay, so if you're using another template or anything, it doesn't per se mean it's wrong. This is just what we advise. You can use your discretion. Okay. So what I would recommend is that you can start with your name and surname, then continue on with your address, and you'll see that we're not using even a full address. And this is for the fraudulent reasons. There's just a lot of fraud happening there. So you can use your discretion if you want to give your full address or not, but you don't have to, as long as you're giving them enough to go on. Cell phone number. Make sure that it's a cell phone number that you're currently using and answering. And I just want to touch again here on the notion of branding and the sort of brand that we'd like to put out there. So I know, especially some of the men, and I'm not calling out anyone, but please be careful when you're answering your phone and you're not sure who's phoning you. I had specifically a student come back to me after the session that somebody phoned them, a recruiter phoned them later that day, and they were just glad that we had this conversation. But please answer your cell phone in a professional way if you're not sure who's phoning, because that can be considered as a pre-interview. All right. And then in terms of email, make sure that you're using number one, putting down an email that you're currently using, and that you're checking on your email, as well as making use of an email that is a professional email name, because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that's using all sorts of unprofessional names. Then I'm going to stop and talk a little bit about LinkedIn, because I just feel it's important, but I'd like you guys to possibly add your LinkedIn URL here, which you can shorten on LinkedIn. Okay, but I'm just going to close this for a second and just talk to you guys a little bit about LinkedIn and give you guys a few tips. Now, there are a lot of platforms that you can use to look for work, and I would definitely recommend that you should be using other platforms as well to be looking for work, especially those ones that are specifically recruiting in your field of study, right? Let's talk about, like, Indeed. It's not bad, but you guys will have to always be careful. There are a lot of scams going around, so really be careful of what you do use and make use of, and always go do proper research on the platforms that you're using. Okay, so on the company. Go have a look at their website and so forth and so forth. Okay. But with regards to LinkedIn, the great thing about LinkedIn, number one, like almost all companies these days are on LinkedIn. So I would recommend, if you are working on your career, planning your career, building your career, make sure you're on LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn yet, please make sure you do get yourself on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, please start become active on LinkedIn. The great thing about LinkedIn, the one great thing about LinkedIn, other than searching for your job, of course, would be that it's a great platform for networking. And networking has always been one of the best ways to find employment. It really is just one of the best ways to find employment. So I just want to give you guys 2 or 3 tips in terms of how to network. But again, if you're not on LinkedIn and you're working on your career, it's definitely the place to be. So the number 1 tip, again, if you do get yourself onto LinkedIn, is to start connecting with people you do know, right? And those people might be employed in the industries and or organizations that you'd like to work in. So, and the other thing that I'd like to say here, it's extremely important for you guys to please be proactive. I've met so many people that they're too scared to be proactive. And my advice would be to rather go open doors. You can always close those doors later than to be too scared to open those doors. But like we said earlier, be professional, consider that branding. And again, branding in terms of social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so forth. Be careful what you put out there and put extra thought in terms of what you would like to put out there in terms of the image and your first impressions and those sort of things that you'd like to make. Okay, so number 1 tip, please go and connect with people you know. Specifically, there might be people that might be working in the industries that you're interested in, so please do so. And then the second tip, please start following and do proper research on the companies that you like to possibly work for in the future. So go and connect and follow with these companies. And there's a news feed on LinkedIn that you can check out every day, and I would recommend that you do. And have a look at what the companies are posting. I like the posts that they are sharing, and you can start interacting. You yourself can also start sharing relevant information. Like I said, but just be careful in terms of what you're sharing and so forth. So definitely start following companies, and you can definitely start getting a feel and start finding out who the recruiters are in the fields and organizations that you're interested in. All right. Then the last tip that I'd like to give in terms of LinkedIn would be, you can search under your institution, and under that you can find the alumni. You can actually connect with previous alumni. I'll just have it in case we send you out. I'll have a definite look at that question. So connect with previous alumni in your field of study, those guys that have started working where you want to go work, possibly for. Okay, so you can connect with them. They can either serve as a mentor, or they can advise you, or they can actually assist you. But again, just be respectful of that relationship and how you treat that relationship. But it's definitely another way to network. Networking has just been always one of those the best ways to build your career. So definitely consider using that. Okay, so that would be LinkedIn. Are there any questions on the CV, LinkedIn, and branding that you might have thus far? I'm just going to also have a look at that question there. Okay. We can't see okay. Yes, I've just been on the template. I'll go back to the template in a minute. Okay. So just tell me if you still can't see the template in a minute. Yeah, okay, hi. In the case you can send your CV. Yeah. Okay, so I'll definitely be talking about your CVs and what we can do in terms of assisting with that at the end of the session. Thank you. Just remind me at the end of the session to address that as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the CV. Any questions so far with regards to anything that I've touched on? But I will give you guys, again, quite a few opportunities to ask questions. Okay, so I'll continue on with the template. Okay, so we're back at the template. Anyone that cannot see this template, I would be a bit concerned because you should be seeing it. Hopefully no issues there. Okay, great. Let me just go check. It will be great to have the CV. Yes, yes. Guys, I will definitely be sending the template through to you guys after the session. Okay, so let us continue on. Okay, so we've touched on LinkedIn. I think we're happy with that. So then what I would recommend is to have some sort of professional profile. Now, a professional profile just entails 4 or 5 sentences, not too long, of you introducing yourself in terms of your degree and your career goals, basically. So this is a good section where you can also address 1 or 2 of those keywords that we talked about. So you can introduce in terms of the degree that you've completed or busy completing, the institution, and then you can touch on 1 or 2 or 3 of the skills that you've got that they need. So you're linking here, let's say they talked about leadership or they talked about interpersonal skills, then you can maybe use some of those words, keywords, yeah, but without copy and pasting and plagiarizing and those sort of things, just some of the keywords. You don't have to go also copy and paste the whole job description. Yeah, it's just not going to work. So you can also then address what sort of position you're looking for. And again, the position needs to be linked to the position you're actually applying for. Otherwise, it's just going to be completely inconsistent and not make sense. Okay, and that is the professional profile. So in terms of education, the most important thing to remember for education and the whole CV as a matter of fact would be that when you're talking about specific dates, right, you will have to mention those dates in terms of reverse chronological order. That means most recent first. So let's say you're currently busy with your honors. You will be mentioning it first, and then you will move down and then talk about your degree that you've completed, and then your national senior certificate. Okay, and that would be relevant throughout your CV in terms of work experience and so forth. So always most recent first. Then I'd just like to bring your attention to something here. You would, okay, in terms of the spacing between the year and the degree, you will see that's the type of spacing. It's a bigger spacing, right? Bigger size spacing. So please, guys, please don't use the space bar to create this type of space. So you're not going to just space there. What I would recommend you do is to either use your tab functionality and or better yet, use your ruler bar. If you guys aren't sure what I'm talking about in terms of creating these spaces, then you're more than welcome to let me know and I will assist you and show you how to do that. Okay. Then in terms of majors, you're not going to include all your majors here. You're just going to mention 1 or 2 or 3 relevant ones. So let's say you're applying now for some sort of sociology position, and you've got some sort of specific major in sociology that you'd like to mention, then you're going to be mentioning it that specifically. Yeah, okay. Same thing with your other degrees as well as with high school, which with high school you don't always have to even add the subjects there. It's not necessary. It really depends on the application. The important thing is to remember your CV is a, living document. You're going to be adjusting your CV according to the positions that you're applying for. So you can also, something else you can do under education if you like, and it's not a bad idea, is to address some of your achievements. So let's say you obtained 85% for anthropology, hypothetically. That can be let's say it's under during your honors year. Then under your honors section, you can say something like under majors, you would say bullet point, and you can say obtained 85% achievement, obtained 85% in anthropology. Something like that. But you can definitely address some of your achievements. Yeah. And again, achievements is one of those things that companies are looking for if you do have some of those. So definitely can use that here. Okay. And that is education. You guys will see that the headings are consistent, the subheadings are consistent, the alignment is consistent, spacing is consistent. Attention to detail is an extremely important skill. I feel that people often don't realize how important it is, especially on your CV and in the world of work. It's just an important skill. So just try to pay attention to detail where you can. Okay. So in terms of work experience, and I think the biggest concern here, I've got a lot of people that come back to me and they would say, oh goodness, they're very worried. They do not have work experience and now they feel they've waited too late or something like that. And 99% of the time, when we sit and we talk, we realize that they do have some sort of work experience. They just don't realize that they've got the work experience. So working for your uncle in your uncle's shop, for example, or volunteering at the local orphanage, or working for some sort of society, all of that is also work experience. It's most likely voluntary work experience, but it is voluntary. It is a work experience and it counts. Okay. But I would like to give you guys a good example here so you guys can have an idea how to deal with this section if possible. Now, let's say we are now applying for that secretarial position we talked about earlier, but they said that they wanted 2-page CV, right? So and hypothetically, we've got now a degree in the secretarial arena, okay? And we've got, like, for example, a few months work experience as a secretary at one institution and a few months work experience as a secretary at another institution. But we've also worked as a waiter at 3 different places. And we also worked as a promoter at 3 other places. And we also volunteered for society. But we only have so much space as well, right? So what are we going to do? We are applying for the secretarial position. What we'll do is we'll go in extensive detail on the work experiences we got working as a secretary. And if they used certain words, like they've said, you're going to have to be filing, you're going to have to be taking minutes. And if those are the things that you've done, you will be addressing those things that you did. And you can possibly be using some of those keywords that they've used, as well, without copy and pasting. But you will definitely go into detail here. And then probably just mention some of the other work experiences you've obtained already, because it's just not that relevant and you're addressing what they are looking for, right? So, and also another thing here under work experience is you will see that the duties are short and sweet. Like, you don't have to write paragraph and paragraph and paragraph. And I would recommend that you do use verbs and you do use descriptive words to describe what you did. So, for example, you can use words like assisted with, ensured that, responsible for. But again, short and sweet and to the point. Okay. I hope that makes sense for work experience. Let's move on to achievements and leadership. So this is something you can address on your CV, especially if you're a current graduate and or are about to graduate or a current student, okay? So if you've addressed some of your achievements under education, then you don't have to re-mention those ones, But you might have other achievements that you want to mention, I've noticed that a lot of people do get confused about what an actual achievement entails and what leadership really means. So achievement would be, for example, you obtain 3rd place in some sort of, let's say, a debate team or something like that. That would be an achievement. Let's say you obtained 85% for something, that's an achievement. Let's say your class representative, that would fall under leadership, or you're the leader of some sort of society, that would be leadership, or you're the captain of the soccer team, that would be leadership. So just make sure that you do make a distinction. And again, as I mentioned previously, you will be mentioning it according to most recent first in terms of dates, and you would be consistent in terms of your headings, your subheadings, and your bullets, your where you describe your achievement and or leadership. Okay. So in terms of training, now, if you don't have this training, you just leave out the training section, right? But this is a sort of training that does not fall part of your official educational training. So let's say, and I will be promoting this, hopefully, let's say you completed the Ready for Work program, right? Then that's something that you can mention under here. The Ready for Work program is offered through career services and enterprises. And the whole purpose of the training is to, and it's for free, is to offer our students a certificate or two and training in terms of soft skills that they might use in the working world. So basically trying to shorten that gap in terms of being a student and entering the world of work. And what the nice thing about it is, it kind of communicates to the company that I as a student have made an effort to make myself more employable for you, my potential employer. So definitely, if you've not done it yet, go and think about doing that one for me as well. Okay. So in terms of skills, and I think what a lot of people do is they would just mention 20 or 30 skills and hope for the best, and hopefully the company is looking for one or two of those skills, and it's great. And unfortunately, I just don't think that is really making the impact that it should be making. I would recommend that you go and adjust and have a look at what they need. And usually in the South African context, I would say that, addressing languages is a good idea, and addressing computer literacy is also a good idea. But then go have a look at what they need. Are they looking for research skills? Are they looking for presentation skills? What skills are they looking for? And then go ask yourself, do I have these skills? And often I think we've got this assumption of, goodness, I don't think I have. And usually, often we do. So let me give you an example. So let's say they're looking for presentation skills. You can say presentation skills as a heading, and then with a bullet underneath it, just a short description. Conducted numerous presentations throughout my academic career. Because it's true, right? So you do have presentation experience. So that's just an example. And then in terms of references, and this is also, again, very important. Remember what I said earlier, it's extremely important to follow the application instructions. So what did they, I'm just going to close this. What did they say in terms of, do they want 2 references? Do they want no references? What did they say? If they said they want 2 references, you will have to give them those 2 references. Otherwise, unfortunately, your application will most likely be thrown out. But if they said nothing, you can say references on request, or just give them 2 references if you've got them. References, make sure that it's somebody that can vouch for your academic excellence, but more importantly, possibly for your work ethic. So a current boss, previous boss, something like that. If you don't have a current boss or previous boss, then I would recommend that you do go ask a lecturer. But these people need to know you, and they need to give consent to be a reference. Okay, so I'm just going to close this for a second. All right. Any questions on the CV?
Hi, ma'am.
Yes, Karabu.
So on the education, is it okay to only write maybe the year that you're graduating, and maybe to avoid if you have a duration that was more than the minimum of like where you were supposed to graduate?
It's a very good question. You can. You can do
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
I've actually, there's different advice going around, but that's definitely one of the advice that I've seen and that I think is actually quite clever. I
Okay.
mean,
Thank you.
if somebody do go and ask you in an interview, you obviously want to be honest and so forth, but that's not lying, just stating the date of completion or whatever the case may be. Okay, you're more
Okay.
than welcome.
All
Thanks,
right.
Karabu.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Did we answer everything? Okay, I'm just going to quickly touch for a minute or two on the cover letter. So what I would say in terms of the cover letter, again, very important is to follow the application instructions, number one. So if they ask you for a 2-page cover letter or 1-page cover letter, or did they ask you to attach the cover letter, what did they say? Is to follow the application instructions. But then also, in the cover letter, the whole point of the cover letter is to motivate why you're probably the best candidate for the position, right? So the best thing to do is to go and have a look at the criteria that they're looking for the position. So if they're talking about leadership and they're talking about interpersonal skills and they're talking about work experience and they're talking about analytical and so forth, those are the things that you'll be addressing in your cover letter. And what you're going to do is you're going to have a look at the examples and proof and justification that you've got those qualities and skills, and bring that in and state those things. It's a good idea to start your cover letter off by just stating again who you are quickly, and then just talking about what you're applying for, so that they are very clear what position they're applying for, when was it advertised, if there's a reference number, just to address that as well. Then a paragraph or two about why you've got the qualities and skills that they're looking for. But I would definitely also have a paragraph on why do you think you're a good fit for the organization. So you will have to do some research. What are they working on? What are their values? Do they stand up for women's rights? Do they, work on solving corruption? What are they doing? Maybe they believe in a dynamic team working environment. Those sort of things. What stands out for you? What attracts you? And what can you relate with? And definitely talk about those sorts of things and bring it in. And then I would definitely be careful of using abbreviations as well as in your CV, cover letter, and or application. So write out and be careful of using jargon unless they've used jargon in the application. And jargon, what I mean is if they use words or you use words that's specific to your field of study that the HR person might not understand unless they've used it themselves. So that is my tips. And then one more thing, when you're applying maybe via email, in the body of the email, wherever you're putting your cover letter there or wherever you're attaching it, but if you are addressing the body, in the body, please make sure that you write professionally and not write, in terms of WhatsApp style there, because again, that would be good enough reason for them to throw out your application as well. Any questions on what I've just talked about? Are we all clear? Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for attending the session. Yes.
Hi, ma'am. There are questions on the chat function.
Oh, there's some questions. Sorry, I did not have a look. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the template. I would like to know where to put your volunteers experience, consultancy, and job experience. Okay, so you're going to be putting that. Okay, let me just go back to the example quick just to show you. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong example. Sorry, guys. Did it close? I'm gonna have to maybe open it again. Just bear with me for a second, guys. There it is. Okay, so good question. In terms of work experience, this is the section, right? You can just say, you will have to say here, if it's voluntary, I would definitely, in brackets, behind sales assistant, say voluntary work experience, so that they know it's voluntary work experience or vacation work. Okay, so that you're definitely addressing what type of work experience it was. If you've got a lot of work experience, you can break it up in terms of addressing your voluntary work experience at one section and your work experience at another section. But if you don't have a lot, you could just put it under work experience and under brackets, just say voluntary work experience. And then another thing to address here that I think would make sense. Let's say now you've got a lot of work experience, right? And one of your voluntary work experiences included something that would fall under leadership, right? Then you don't have to go and address that work experience under work experience. You can go and address it as a leadership type of work experience under leadership to prove leadership, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to close there. Just hold on. Wait a minute. What is happening? Sinu, I think you by accident pressed the presenting button. Can you maybe just press stop? Sinu? Okay, let me just quickly see. I'm just going to close that. I don't know how you did that. Hold on a second. Hi guys, can you guys hear me? Tinu?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm just removing you. I'm just going to share that again. I don't know how that happened, Sinu. It's fine. Okay. Sorry, did I answer that question? Did that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thanks. Great stuff. Okay, thank you for that, Peter. And then, as an undergraduate student, can you mention achievements from high school? Good question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, you can. Again, your CV is a working document. So let's say you've got already a lot of achievements, then maybe it might be redundant to mention some of those achievements. But if you've got 1 year, 1 day, it's definitely still a good idea to address maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of your achievements that you've obtained during high school. It's still fine. But the older you get, the less relevant it will become. So be careful. You're definitely not going to go back to primary school or anything like that in terms of your achievements. So be a little bit careful. Try to focus on more relevant things if you can. But in terms of proving that consistency in terms of achievements, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Especially if you've got maybe 1 achievement in your tertiary education and maybe 1 or 2 during high school, I definitely would address it. Okay, so good question. Emma, would the dial Canary course for under training? Okay, I will be very serious with you. I'm not sure what the course entails, but if it's not part of your official education degree and it's not directly linked to your degree, then that can fall under training. And again, guys, you will use your discretion what you put under training. Some people have so many things already to add and they feel that that's not going to add any value to the application, then they might want to leave it out. So it really depends on what you want to do. But if you're trying to communicate with them and show them that you have been doing different things and you can add on some of those things and you think it might be an advantage, definitely add that. I will definitely remember. I will definitely thank you for that. I would definitely send you guys the CV template. Any further questions, guys? Any questions? You guys happy? Did I cover everything?
I just wanted to ask,
Right.
in terms of experience, do you only put experience that is related to the work you're applying for, or all the experience that you have, you must list on your CV?
Okay, so it really depends. Let's say, because there are people out there that's got a lot of experience, right? So you might not want to address all of your experiences, and it might become redundant and boring. So what I would do is, again, like I said earlier, let's say we are applying now for that secretarial position. I will focus on the secretary work experiences that I've got, and I would just address very briefly the other work experiences that I've had. You don't want your CV to be too long anyway. You don't want to bore people. Remember, recruiters are only spending a few seconds on your CV. So they're basically trying to scan through your information to see whether you've got the qualities and skills that they're looking for and or the template. And then, guys, I'm just going to quickly just tell this. This is a colleague of mine. I'm just going to tell them I'm phoning them back. I'm saying apologies for that. Hi, Saki. Saki? Don't know why it's doing that, but I'll phone him back now. It seems like he's really urgently trying to get hold of me. But anyway, guys, so definitely it's about adjusting. It's about deciding. But let's say you've got let's say, right, you're applying now for a position as an anthropologist, hypothetically, right? But you've worked for 3 months as a waiter, and you've worked for 3 months as a promoter, and that's the work experience that you've got. I would definitely address those work experiences, but try and be clever about the wording that I use in terms of the duties a little bit to kind of convey that work ethic. But I don't have relevant work experience as an anthropologist or anything else, but I want to show them that I have made an effort to get that work experience and have work ethic. So then I would be addressing some of those work experiences. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that answers your question. I hope so. Okay, guys. I will be sending you guys, Rachel.
Yes, thank you very much.
I hope it makes sense. And guys, I will be sending you guys the template.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. With regards to the CV template you're about to give us, if you're an undergraduate and you're still in your first career, so should we pretend as, or should we fill in the template as like we are already qualified or what? And then again, about this session, I had several network encounters, several network errors. So where can I get the recording of this session?
Okay, so I'm just going to try and think if I understood your first question in the right way. Did you ask about if you are about to graduate and you've got a little bit of work experience, what do you do? Is that what your first question was, Sam?
Yeah, it was sort of, ma'am, but not yet. You're an undergraduate and you don't have any work experience.
Yes. Okay. You don't have any work experience. So you're asking what to do. Okay, so I think this session and going through the CV would always give anyone a good opportunity, right, to identify certain gaps on your CV and areas that you might want to work on. Now, as I mentioned previously, often we do think we don't have work experience, but we might have some. Again, like I said, if you've volunteered anywhere, or you worked anywhere and it was for free, or you worked at a society, or even as a leader, that is all work experience. So really go and dig and think in terms of anything that you have done that can count as work experience. If you really don't have work experience, there's still time and opportunity to start working, whether it's voluntary or otherwise, to build on your CV. And I really do recommend that you do something like that because you want to add flesh to your CV. So If you don't, you're going to have to try and work on some of those other things you can bring to the plate in terms of maybe leadership and those sort of things. It doesn't mean you're not going to be considered, but you want to be competitive and proactive in terms of building your CV. So really try and identify certain gaps and try and work. I hope you other guys can hear me. Okay. I really hope you're not having any issues. I don't know if it's a network issue, but really try and proactively work on improving your work experiences, whether it's voluntary or otherwise. And again, guys, like I said earlier, the more relevant, the better, even if it's voluntary. So let's say you are doing anthropology or psychology or whatever the case may be, if you can get anything linked to that, even if you're not being paid, it's something you can add on your CV. It's definitely something you need to explore. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Sam. I hope it gives you a little bit of a...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thanks, ma'am. I'm all right.
Okay, so please start identifying those gaps and working on those gaps where possible. Okay. Sorry, Sam, just remind me, I didn't have a good night's sleep last night. What was your second question?
Oh, so I asked about this session. Where can I get the recording?
The recording. Okay, yeah. So we will be working on putting it on YouTube. If anyone attended late and or had issues in terms of hearing me, you are either more than welcome to email me, and if you can attend, I've got a session on Monday, and I will be having one or two throughout the whole week, next week. So you're more than welcome to email me to attend it again, but I will also be having this session. So you're welcome to email me and ask me for a copy of this, but it still needs to just be uploaded. So give me a little bit of time with regards to that. I will be sending you guys the template. I'm just going to see, I think we had another question or two. Okay, can you attach the documents at the end of the CV, such as certificate? Okay, we are here. Can you attach documents at the end of the CV, such as certificates? My recommendation is to keep them separate, as separate documents, and only to provide them in your application if they've been asked. So if the company said, please provide me with your transcripts, please provide me with a copy of your ID, please provide me with a CV. Otherwise, don't do it, and also don't add it to your CV. I would have it as separate documents. Okay, that's my advice that I would give for that. Lynn, what is the goal of the cover letter? Is it to introduce yourself and why you want to work for the firm? So firm specific, do a bit of research on the firm, or is it a summary of your CV? I've missed if we already covered this. Is there any advice? Okay, so Lynn, the CV and the cover letter usually complements each other, but I wonder if this person is extremely late. But anyway, the CV and the cover letter usually complements each other, but they don't always ask for a cover letter. But if they ask for an email, my advice would be to just have a cover letter anyway. And usually no longer than a page. And again, it depends on instruction. And the purpose of the cover letter is again to motivate, to justify why you're a good candidate. So you might have mentioned in your CV that you've got work experience, but in your cover letter, you're going to state specific examples of why you say you've got leadership qualities, why you say you, for example, can problem solve or have interpersonal skills. So you will really justify in there why you've got those qualities and skills. So definitely still important. But guys, we might be moving towards a trend where we might start moving away from CVs and cover letters, and everything might start to happen on LinkedIn eventually. But Let's see. But that is the purpose of the cover letter, Lynn. I hope that makes sense. It's not per se a summary of your CV. You're not going to just address everything in your CV again in your cover letter. You're going to grab certain things that they said is important and touch on those things. I hope that makes sense, Lynn. Okay, so I also have something I received at high school called a testimonial. It summarizes all my achievements at high school and a brief description of me from my principal. Is that a good document to attach to my CV as an undergrad? I get why you've got the testimonial. It's not a bad idea. Usually my advice would be to not attach random extra documents if they haven't asked for it. But maybe if you really feel that it would be an advantage, you can attach a testimonial separate to your CV when you're applying for a position. Okay, but don't overthrow them with documents and things that they haven't asked for. Okay. Can we have your presentations? Okay, I'll be working on that as well. Sure, I don't know why you're having trouble to hear me, but I hope everybody else can. But we will definitely work on it, guys. Okay, if you have not yet finished your studies, is it possible to say that I'm a student, for example, at master's level, or simply say your last diploma? No, you're definitely going to mention that you're currently busy with your master's. So that's absolutely fine. What is the channel's name? Okay, don't worry about that, guys. You guys are more than welcome. I will make sure that I will make this available to you guys. Okay, so I will send you guys the link for the YouTube. Okay. Can you please also send the link to the video along with the template? What is the difference between a cover letter and a motivational? There's no difference. It's really the same thing. Both of them are attempting to do the same thing. So really just almost a matter of different words for the same thing. The presentation is now frozen this side. Hey, I'm seeing that he's having all sorts of trouble that side. I don't know why. We can also send you a CV. Okay. Yes, guys, and lastly, like I said, thank you again for attending the session. I will be sending you guys the CV template. I will also make available the video once it's been uploaded. And I hope today's session has been helpful and beneficial and will give you guys a good idea to what to do for the future. But remember, I am here to assist you guys. So if you need more assistance with your CV and or cover letter, specifically when you're applying for a specific position, right, then you can contact me as well, and I can assist you further with that. If you need any other assistance in terms of your career, I can help you or put you in connection with somebody that can possibly help you. And lastly, if you've got an interview that's coming up, I can assist you with an interview prep as well. But guys, please always give me a few days so that I can have enough time to get to everybody in time. So please, if you've got an interview, give me a few days. If you've got a specific CV, please give me a few days as well. And again, the video, in terms of accessing it, I will be sending you guys the link in a few days or so. But with regards to the template, I'll be sending that to you guys soon today still. Okay. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and be positive, be proactive, and like I said, I will definitely be hearing from you guys as you start applying and needing any further assistance. All right. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.